discussion. You are requested to approach the podium and use the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and limit the time used to present your remarks in order that others may be given the opportunity to speak. The normal process on any agenda item is for the chair to read the item from the agenda. The board is given an opportunity to comment on the issue and/or place a motion on the floor. An opportunity for discussion may be presented, at which time the public may participate and a roll call vote will follow. Roll call.
Hibbs,
Yes.
Pyle,
Yeah.
Goodman,
Yes.
Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
I'll second to approve the agenda.
Roll call vote, please.
Hibbs,
Yes?
Pyle,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Okay. The consent agenda. Item 5A, claims as audited. Item 5B, file manure management plans, Burt Farm and Livestock Company, Site 5, number 62502, at 2809 170th Street, Marshalltown, signed with no changes. JT Farms West Site, number 63207, at 2236 292nd Street, Haverhill, signed with no changes. That is the end of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve today's consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Hibbs,
Yes?
Pyle,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Okay. We have Heather Thomas with us from the city of Marshalltown to present some information to us. Welcome, Heather.
Good morning. I'll have some help from the back to pull up a presentation. Okay, so we're going to go over the project that's currently out to bid. It's the second phase of the downtown implementation plan, which includes East Main Street from Center Street to 3rd Ave, and then Center Street from Church to State. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so this is an overview of the project. We'll be doing full street and sidewalk reconstruction. We'll be doing utility replacements. Marshalltown Waterworks is replacing their water main. Their records start in 1911, and these water main predate their records. So they're very old. We're also going to be doing some storm sewer improvements to this area. We're fortunate on this project when compared to our State Street project that we do not have sanitary sewer under these roads. They run in the alleys in these areas. There's quite a bit of streetscape amenities that I'll be going over in a little bit. Increased lighting around this area, as well as a couple of parking lots. And then one of the things that we'll all have to get used to is we're going to switch to some angle parking, and we'll be switching to back-in angled parking along some of the area. So we'll go to the next slide. So as I talk about some of the streetscape amenities, we've talked a little bit about a city-county partnership and creating an event plaza downtown. In the downtown implementation plan that was put together after the tornado, they were looking for space somewhere downtown to take a half a block or so and build a plaza. Well, real estate's kind of limited downtown, and so we thought what a great opportunity to utilize the north side of the courthouse and really make that the focal point of Marshalltown. If you think back to the tornado, the Marshalltown Strong symbol, it had the courthouse in it. So really it's a symbol not only for the city of Marshalltown, but also Marshall County. So as we look at some of the streetscape amenities that'll be included along the whole project, but really focusing on the block just north of the courthouse, we'll be having some trash receptacles. We'll be using and integrating a brick paver pattern throughout the project. In select areas, we'll have some bike racks. We'll be using a combination of above ground planter pots as well as in-ground planters. However, unlike current ones, they'll all have curbs on them, so it'll kind of contain some of the mulch and landscaping. Also in this event space, we'll have some overhead lighting, so the down in the center of the screen there, They'll have that over the street as well as over the plaza space on the south side of this area. Those two larger yellow areas are some landscaping, but they'll also have a concrete seat wall around them to provide some built-in seating. Those will have some under lights as well. Throughout this stretch, we'll also have some standing tables, so if you hop into Sub City to grab a sub and you want to chat with somebody outside, you'll have just a little bit of space to do some of those activities. We'll have benches, and I mentioned the increased lighting on the right-hand side is a new street light that still accommodates the banners and the flags and the wreaths that we do downtown. However, the hanging flower baskets are going away, but we are incorporating some of those plantings throughout with the in-ground and above-ground planters. Next slide. The other part of this is we're going to kind of kick it back to history just a little bit. Historically, on the bottom right-hand side, there was an overhead gateway arch for Marshalltown. That was on 3rd Ave, just south of the downtown area, primarily to accept railroad passengers and welcome to Marshalltown when they got here. So we'll be looking at that and putting this over in the block between 2nd Ave and 3rd Ave to kind of mimic that, but be a little bit more maintenance friendly, not individual bulbs, but all kind of taking that same look. We also wanted to pay tribute to the courthouse, so the very bottom portion of that will match the masonry of this courthouse. And then also MCBD has recently done a little bit of branding efforts, and kind of their work is in the bottom center at the bottom of the screen. Colors are upper right. In the panels, we're going to be putting acrylic panels to match those colors to kind of bring that color scheme throughout downtown. Those planter pots and some of the activities that the businesses do, we're kind of like revolving around that color scheme. So for some annuals, can kind of feed off of that color scheme. Next slide. So some project details. We are out for bid right now. We have it split up into a base bid and 2 bid alternates. The base bid is kind of what we just went over, those 5 blocks, including the event space here on the county's courthouse ground, as well as that work with Marshalltown Waterworks. We're also looking at partnering with the Marshalltown Community School District. They now have the Orpheum, which they use as their welcome center. They are going to be looking at redoing that parking lot. That's one of the parking lots that's looking at getting some increased lighting, as well as the city's parking lot on the south side of the road in that area. So they have a bid alternate to redo that parking lot, take some of the elements that we're planning in our streetscape and extending it to their parking lot as well. Bid alternate 2 is a project that they're looking at with coordination with Marshalltown Waterworks and redoing the alley there between the Welcome Center and Marshalltown Waterworks as facilities. Bids are due next Tuesday, March 4th. We'll be considering them March 10th. I'll go over the phasing on a future slide here, but we know there's going to be impacts to downtown. This is going to be a challenging project. I'll even go as far as to say it's going to suck. All right, but we're going to work through it, and hopefully the public will continue to support these businesses. We're phasing it so that you don't have to have 5 blocks closed at once. But there is still going to be some impacts. There was a public and property owner meeting held in October that really went through some of those impacts, specifically how to get to the front doors and leaving 5 and 6 foot sidewalks along all the businesses for the bulk of construction. That is on the city's YouTube channel if you're interested in watching that. Next slide. So as we talk a little bit about the city-county partnership, we're really talking about this event space. So I did break that cost out here in a little bit, and we're talking about the space that is outside of the street back of curb. So everything south of the curb line in that area where we're intending people to gather is kind of what we're focusing. Next slide. So when we just look at that event plaza space, here are the bid items that are associated with that work. We have a total estimated cost right now of about $906,000 for that space. 5% 5% contingency brings it to 951. I am working on an addendum right now, and we're working with Lucas to try to get a couple of storm sewer connections in place for the roof drains on the courthouse too that may come into that. But that's what we're looking at for just this event space that we're talking. Next slide. And so phasing and impacts. If everything goes as according to plan, and March 10th this project gets awarded, phase 1 is going to kick off very soon, probably the very first part of April. Phase 1 is along Center Street from Church to State, and they have a intermediate completion date of that of the middle of August of this year. So impacts to county facilities when that's closed. We've coordinated with United Bank and Trust, and we'll be closing one lane of Church Street just at that intersection to give the contractor a little bit of laydown space. So one of the things that's a concern when you have a project is contractors bring construction equipment, vehicles, and they need a little bit of space. So we thought that was the least impactful to the businesses downtown if we carved a little bit of space there. We're also requiring them to carpool and not bring vehicles. And if they do bring vehicles, we've given a 6-block area that they're not allowed to park in. So they can park 3 blocks away and walk their crews in. But we are working through that. The west side of the courthouse will be closed off. There'll be no sidewalk there during construction, but the east side of Center Street, west side of courthouse. But as we go to the west side of Center Street, again, we're keeping that 5 or 6 foot sidewalk along all those businesses for the bulk of phase 1 construction. So that's planned to be the first part. As we go into phase 2, that's where we're talking about the block there between Center and First Ave. And we will not be closing any of the intersections down during that. That'll be the block work plus the event plaza space. That'll kick off right as soon as we get phase 1 open back to traffic, and that has a completion date of the middle of December of this year. While that is closed, again, the intersections are open, but as we look over to First Ave, we're going to have a few of those stalls on the west side of First Ave carved out for contractor trailer and stuff, but all of your guys' stalls for the courthouse that are designated and reserved on the south half of that block will remain. As we talk about some of the conversion of existing parking to what is proposed, you guys currently have pull-in angle parking on that side of First Ave. At some point, the city will switch that to back-in angle parking. However, pavement markings don't really last very well if you paint them in December, so I'm debating right now we might not do that until 2026. So there might be a period of time that we have some back-end angled parking on Center Street and Main Street and keeping the forward angle parking there on First Ave. As we get into 2026, we're looking at phase 3, and we've kind of split that into 2. Because of the water main work and where the valves are and the connections, we do need to close a larger section of that down, but we're prioritizing the First Ave intersection. So that looks to be closed just for a couple of months, and they're going to open that back up before they move on to the eastern side. The pink area and that purple area up there, that is the bid alternates, and the work that they're doing there. They have a working day, calendar day based contract, and they're looking sometime late fall or sometime in 2026. And that's going to be a contractor's choice on that. So those are the impacts. Wanted to kind of bring you all up to speed. I know we met, I want to say about 8 months ago when we were talking through this, and then kind of as we look at bids this next week, kind of the plan to award and the city-county collaboration on the cost of the event space. I know we've been working with Lucas and Supervisor Hibbs on that. I think they have a proposal or a draft proposal, and maybe I'll turn it over to Carol to kind of bring that up.
Well, so let's kind of talk about if you guys have any questions about things, or Lucas, if you have comments on things. The last time we were looking at this, I think the estimate was around 700,000 for the event space. How'd it go up to what's the additional 200?
Yeah, so when we met on that was the estimate for some of just the paving items.
Okay.
And some of the other event space had not been added into that project
see.
yet.
I
Yep,
see.
at that time.
Okay. Okay. What questions do you guys Yeah.
I don't have any at the time.
Yeah. So is there a specific request to consider? I mean, you and I and Lucas had talked about perhaps sharing the cost of, from the curb in. And so that's why that was broken out. And so we had talked about, the possibility of the county funding half of that, perhaps even over a period of time.
Yeah.
So that's what's been proposed or talked about. I don't know if you guys have questions or thoughts on that.
So the construction of this project will hit fiscal year 25, 26, and 27. So the city is very flexible in working with you guys to span out any contribution over multiple fiscal years. Recently, I just did a tour of the courthouse, and one of the things Lucas mentioned when we got upstairs to the bell says both city and county on it. And that's something that actually stood out to me because the comment was, it's not very often that the city and the county can collaborate on projects. And so that was one very notable project. And I think this is another opportunity to do that same thing. So the request is to split 50-50 on the event block space. Again, looking at potentially over multiple fiscal years. I know another discussion, and that's on a lot of people's mind right now, is the upcoming lost election and how that may impact your budget. So there was a discussion that if you guys did proceed with a motion, that you could make that motion contingent upon a successful passage of the lost election coming up next week as well. But that would be where we would like to start.
What are your thoughts?
Well, do we necessarily have to make that decision today, wait to see how the election turns out and as we continue on our budget process? Or is it something we want to make a commitment today? Because I think that's what we want to do, is we want to commit to this. It's just a matter of how we're going to fund
Yeah.
it is the question.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it's what are you guys comfortable with today? I mean, we're absorbing the information, and for you guys, it's the first time seeing some of it, so.
And one of the reasons we had discussed making a motion potentially contingent on the lost outcome is the city council will be meeting on March 10th to determine whether to award or not. We still have a funding gap on our end for the project. And so we're trying to work with Marshalltown Waterworks, the school district, and the county to trying to figure out where the funding pieces are coming to kind of put a funding plan together to present to council before they make that award.
Yeah, so I think the timing of this it would be helpful for them to know.
Right, and our
That
meeting,
they have a
next one is March 12th, so
Yeah.
they'll be meeting before our next meeting.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that was our discussion. I did have some thoughts on possibilities for options for us to fund out of the allotment that we use for economic development but it would have to be over a period of fiscal years too, to kind of make this work within what we already set aside. So.
Are you asking for a motion to approve this?
I'm
as-
asking, do you want to make a motion today, or do you want to, I do think it would be helpful if we could tell the city yes or no, we're committed to helping with it.
Is it half of that?
So half of 951 is what? Is the up to price?
Is the current estimate.
Yeah. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on, or ideas how bids are coming in on these kind of stuff now?
So we've seen some of the infrastructure bids specifically related to pavement and utilities finally level off because COVID hit, and we had 20% increase in single years, and then 10% the following year. But we are seeing some of that kind of flatline. We do have a pretty good number of plan holders on this project, so I do think we'll be receiving multiple bids for prime contractors. Given the time sensitivity of this, that sometimes elevates the bid. They're working in the downtown We have pretty steep liquidated damages related to if they don't meet certain deadlines. And again, we're trying to balance impacts to businesses. So, you know, we feel like the estimate, when we look at the unit prices, are in line with what the bids are coming in right now. But I guess it depends on how hungry the contractors are.
Yeah. Do you see, like, the possibility of tariffs having any effect on this?
I've not heard any contractors that are bidding on this project right now bring that up to us.
Okay.
But with these projects, once they submit their bid, they can't come back and say, hey, there's a new tariff and I want more money for that.
Right.
So we're fortunate a little bit on that. The tariffs, a lot of them have been on metal products. And so really the primary metal products on this project are going to be light poles, and then the water main is ductile iron. Given the amount of ductile iron water main that's there, I would suspect that the contractor will have that ordered and secured within the first month after bidding. So if the tariffs don't take effect in the near future, I think they'll be able
We'll
to
be
avoid
okay with that timing.
Heather, can we get a copy of the presentation or?
Yep,
okay.
yep.
Lucas, do you have any comments, you want to share with how the process has went?
Lucas Badke, Buildings and Grounds. I'm just gonna echo kind of what I've been saying through this whole project. I really like the plan that they have going on here. I think making the courthouse kind of the centerpiece of Marshalltown has always been one of my goals, and something that we like to project to the citizens. And you know, if we're able to help out, that'd be nice. Any questions for me? Perfect.
I'll put it as a topic too for our budget meeting Friday.
Friday?
Okay.
So I guess my question is, does anyone feel comfortable making a motion, or what would you like to do next?
Well, if we make the motion of half that today, that's 475,736.63 And that's 158,578.88 over a 3-year period. What's the safeguards on this going up? You know, if we make this commitment today.
I think you guys have the option of kind of saying 50% of the outcome
Estimated,
of this
yeah.
To a max number to provide you that safeguard.
Well, I think we go with that max of the half that's presented today. Of course, if it's amended, we can revisit it at that date if some unforeseen circumstances occur. So-
And if the bids come in lower?
Obviously, like I said, the only item that's not on this list that's being included in the addendum is we're adding, 2 connections for the roof drains on the courthouse. But we'll have 2 years to keep you guys in the loop, but I think that does give us the direction. If it is 50% to a max number and the bids come in, it's 50% to these items regardless.
Okay.
All right, with that, I'll make the motion to approve funding for the Main Street Scape project to the cost of $475,736.63 over the next 3-year period.
Could we add contingent upon the passage of lost?
Yeah, we can amend my motion to include that.
Okay.
And your number again, 4757?
736.63.
Okay, that's what I had, but I wanted to verify. Thank you.
Ah, the math worked.
Yes.
And just for clarification, 3 years with the first year being your fiscal year 25 or 26.
Remind me, is it starting this year, or your 3 years counting this year, or 3 years counting starting next year?
3 years would start this fiscal year.
Yeah, we'd include it for this year. I think we can whittle some ending fund balances to include that.
Well, then I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other questions for Heather? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Hibbs,
Yes?
Heil,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes?
Okay, thank you, Heather. Thank you, yeah. Item number 8, Resolution 2025-0008, County Compensation Board, compensation schedule for elected officials. I'm calling that up. We have our recommendation for elected officials for salaries.
And James, could you bring, we do have a spreadsheet as well. In case we want to do any adjusting, just so you can see what those numbers look like.
Okay.
And do the second email she sent, James.
Sorry, bear with me here. I don't see anything yet.
I'll send it,
I have it pulled up if you want me to forward.
forward it to James, yeah. Want to make sure the rounding, we added rounding to the formula. Those pennies are so cumbersome.
Okay. Any members of the compensation board present that would like to speak?
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. So I'm the representative for the sheriff. The compensation board this year was interesting because we have new rules from the state legislature. So we had to work through those, so it was a 2-day meeting. We worked, pretty hard on that, pretty diligently. We don't make any of these recommendations lightly because we know the fiscal pressures that everybody's under. One of the difficult tasks this year was union negotiations were happening kind of around our meetings, some before and some after. And that's a tough thing for us to project forward because we want to avoid that compression between the salaried and the union staff. I realize after the fact that some of the 5th and 6th year deputies are ending up with something like an 11% increase, 10 and 11%. If you could go back to that, thanks, James. So you can see that we're asking for less than that on almost every office. We have to keep in mind that these are salaries specifically for the sheriff. We have legislation that now says that the salary shall be set similar or commensurate to other law officials in the same fields, including private industry. And if I can, I don't know if you got this. Did you get the spreadsheet on the sheriff? I'll give this to you. Last year we got the sheriff up to the middle, population-wise, to define similar. There's no legislation that said what similar is. Doesn't say plus or minus 10% or anything like that. So I basically said, okay, let's look at the 5 counties above and the 5 counties below, and let's get us in the middle,
Population-wise?
population-wise. Okay.
Mark, did you look at budget size at all?
all population.
Oh, it was all
size, yeah.
population based?
I did not
Okay.
look at budgets.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the interesting ones is highway patrol for our area is 143,000. And we're slightly below that. We got a new police chief in the city. He got a salary of 138,000, I think it was in February, but then March 1st, I think he's bumped to 142. Okay,
July 1.
excuse me?
Isn't it July 1?
It says March 1st.
March,
on it.
March.
March 1st, okay.
Yeah. It was like boom, boom. And
All
so,
right.
So from the sheriff's standpoint, we're recommending 7% to get us in the middle with the population wise and to get us commensurate with the police chief and the highway patrol. And I think that's a good place. I would have liked it to be just a little bit higher so we don't have to keep bouncing up against every year we're going to do this. Every year everybody else is going to raise their rates, and every year we're going to be having to, but that's fine. Well, the 7% is a good recommendation. But we need to really keep that in mind with the union negotiations, that what they're getting. Unfortunately, we don't elect our union negotiator, so. But, and then the rest of them, I mean, I really, from a comp board representative, if I'm representing everyone feels that the auditor recorder's position is underfunded. The auditor recorder is essentially, if I look at it, comparing it to a city job, you've got the city administrator, you've got the HR department, and you've got the finance director. And the auditor recorder's position in the county is doing all those jobs. And all those jobs are costing the city close to $400,000. And I'm not saying that the auditor recorder needs $400,000, but I'm just saying there's a lot of work there. And the majority of the compensation board feels that that position is under paid. But it's up to you guys to decide that. I'm just telling you what the comp board said. And hopefully next year we can move the comp board meeting to be after union negotiations so we can have.
We don't have them
Yeah, I was
next
gonna
year.
say,
We have
we
3
Well,
years.
that's good.
Yeah.
There you go. But in the future, we keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Any questions for me?
No, thanks for your work on this, Mark.
Yeah, we
Thanks.
appreciate your work. I know the law changed this year, and some counties actually didn't have compensation boards,
Yeah.
but we were fortunate that you guys agreed, and we all agreed that it's important work, so
And I
thank
think
you.
from the comp board side, we're glad that you chose to have it. There's some growly people on the comp board, but we get through it.
And we appreciated having people that had done it before too, because it was a bit of a thankless job. So we appreciated all of you that had been veterans of doing that process.
Well, this year was a little different too, because when they changed the law, they overlooked the 3 counties that have combined auditor recorders.
That was
So
silly.
our auditor recorder has 2 representatives.
So we pulled Steve Salasik in, so at least it was somebody that was
Was
somewhat familiar.
with things, yeah. Yeah, well, we appreciate all your work. I know the past couple of years, we've, tried to take this recommendation and apply it as much as we were able, so we
Yeah.
appreciate it,
Yeah,
so.
thank you.
Other comments?
Ben Brin, the Chief Deputy of the Sheriff's Office. First of all, I want to thank the comp board, Mark, and everybody else for all the work they do. That's hard, crunching all those numbers and trying to figure out how to make that all work with the money that's out there or the money that's not there. That's the decision you guys have to make and sort through up here, and that's a tough choice to make. One thing I just want to reiterate, Mark brought up already with the union contract, we are looking at an 8.5% increase for year 5 deputies and 11.4% increase for year 6 deputies. So we're the board's done a great job over the last several years of really working to kind of give that gap in there, that avoid that compression. And I think that's really paid off. This is another big step where looking at the raises are fixed from years moving forward with the contract. However, this first year, there is a substantial difference with those initial raises. So I really hope that the board can consider that. I understand the budget is what it is. But I look at, coming up on almost 20 years here at the sheriff's office. I've been chief deputy for almost 4 years. I've enjoyed working for the sheriff, for the board, for the citizens here. But the reality of it is I'm not a lot of years from being out of this position. And what we look at is transitioning down the road. We want good leaders to come up in these roles. And when you have that compression, there is a lot of responsibility with these salary roles, especially as a chief deputy and the jail administrator. We are tied by the code to the sheriff's salary, 85 and 83%. So we are directly tied to him. Other salary positions are kind of unique because they don't have that component. However, we do have to try and maintain that gap for our jail supervisors. If we ever add any future leadership positions in our deputy ranks, to have that gap in there for those people to have that extra pay to offset the increased responsibility. I love what I do, but everybody's been in this role and these other leadership salary roles. There is a lot of extra phone calls, night times, weekends where that happens, and if I don't tend to notice them as much, but if you ask the spouses of those people in these positions, they notice the phone calls, and it is a lot of extra responsibility. We enjoy what we do, but it is a lot of extra work. So we appreciate your consideration on it.
Do you have problems getting people to consider leadership roles? And maybe that's a sheriff question.
Joe Phillips, Sheriff. We actually do. We have one opening that's going to be coming up here shortly, May 30th, for courthouse security deputy. Deputy Bean will be retiring. And that was one of the questions we've put out for letters of interest for those positions. And one of the things that came up was it's kind of a supervisory position. You have to basically supervise courthouse activities with the courthouse deputies, the bailiffs, transports, and appointments. So it's one of those roles where what's the pay? It's still the same pay as a deputy sheriff by our bargaining unit contract. So that does come into effect when they make these decisions, especially when, like in our jail, our lieutenant's positions. It's one of those things where the top jail staff with overtime holidays, they will actually have the opportunity to make more than the actual lieutenants in the supervisory role. So it's a balancing act, and I think this year with the contract being due with the compensation board, it was added a little more interesting decision making when it comes to that those decisions when it comes to salaries. So, and again, I think the compensation board, I think Mark and the board of supervisors, but that's one of the things that we struggle with is to add opportunity, give those leadership opportunities to our staff. But that's one of the things that comes in decision making. We want those capable people in those positions, not just because of the pay. We want to make sure they're qualified.
Yeah. Pat, do you have anything you want to add to the conversation? Okay. Anyone else for comments?
I'd like to make a comment about the sheriff's office as well. They mentioned, we kind of upped the upper tiers of the sheriffs on the union side, and it was really for recruitment. We're just too close to Story County, so close to the metro. I mean, it's not very far to drive down to Altoona, and retention is important for our deputies, and then that compression factor is also a thing. So our union did contract for the sheriff's office, deputy and jailers, and the clerical did get approved. We're still finalizing things, and then we'll be voting. The weather didn't cooperate with us very much on the road side of things the last few weeks here, so we've tweaked that a little bit, and they will be voting on that, I believe, here this week sometime.
This week? Okay.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of changes and some additional conversations, so I think that's getting worked out, but I think we've made some good adjustments for them, just trying to keep people here. But it does impact the folks sitting in this room, so.
Okay. Comments from my fellow board members?
This is always fun because, nothing like going through a public process of everyone's pay here. The corporate world doesn't necessarily go through that, but it's important that it is part of the process because this is the taxpayer dollars. And, we really do have wonderful elected officials here, and we appreciate all the work that they do, including the supervisors. Thank you. And we appreciate the comp board and what they do. It's a very critical piece of analyzing the data that it's good to have an outside board analyze that data for us. To help us come up with a decision. And when we come up to this decision, we got unions, non-unions, you got the sheriff who's got union within their department, and then we have our non-unions, which we penciled in 3% raise for them, and how you come up with this conclusion that is adequate and fair for all. It probably doesn't equate to adequate and completely fair for all, but it's the decision that we try to do here. And us, with our budget, we're facing, pretty significant increases in our property insurance, workman's comp, health insurance, in addition to, we had underfunded our health fund to help pay for the courthouse, and so getting that back up. So when you're putting that all together, we're trying to make sure that the bottom line for the taxpayers is appropriate. And so, of course, when you're looking at this difference of, if we went with 3% to match what we did with the employees and with the recommendation that was given here today, obviously that's $18,000 difference. And Nan, if you could help me, what's the estimated number that we add to it for benefits?
40%.
So you take 40% of that 18,000. And you're looking at another 7,000-ish on top of that. So obviously, this doesn't necessarily break the bank on what we do. At the same time, what is most
Well, it wouldn't be a full 40 because we're already paying for the health insurance for that.
Okay.
So on that, it would just be Social Security and Medicare, which is 7.65.
7.065,
Yeah,
isn't it?
7.65.
Okay.
So let's do that.
So that should only be, my math says 1383 on top of that.
So on that.
So 30,000 if it's 3%? Is that what you're coming up with, if it's 3% or?
It's $2,700. Yeah. let me
Yeah,
get the
I was
difference.
adding the two together.
So I guess bottom line is this isn't a massive difference here, but it's also, we had instructed our department heads to do 3% for their employees of non-unions. But then we also have the uniqueness of the sheriff's office with their union and what occurred there. So, I mean, I would be comfortable with doing 3. I'd be comfortable with doing 3 for everyone but the sheriff's office and more there. I don't know, what's your thoughts? I mean, I'd even be comfortable with what the recommendation was given to us at the same time.
The FICA difference is $1,383. If you did 3% for everybody versus the recommendation, that's the cost of the FICA
Okay.
difference.
Thank you. What are your thoughts? I think I just laid it out there without really giving an opinion.
You're like, I'd be comfortable with all of the above. Yeah. What about you, Kevin?
Well, there's probably a compromise in there somewhere, because, we're asking some of our employees to, kind of tighten up the belt a little bit, and so somewhere in there's got to be a compromise. I don't know if we can go the full compensation recommendation, but I think we need to be a little bit more than 3%, especially with the sheriff's department.
Remind me, our options are all as is.
You can change now, this year with the new law,
We can change anything.
and it doesn't have to be the same.
It doesn't have to be the same.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's different than it was previously.
Okay, That's
So
good
it
to
makes everything a
So we can
whole
adjust,
lot
yeah.
easier.
So basically,
Okay.
we can do whatever we want. And it's, we don't, what the compensation board really, what's sadly is it can not matter, but it should matter to us. That's my
Yeah,
point. It
yeah,
should matter
yeah, yeah.
because they took the
No,
time
yeah.
to
Mm-hmm.
do
It
all
does
the,
matter, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think boards of supervisors across state can look at it as, I don't care what the comp board did, and that's not at all, I think, what is our sentiment here, because,
Yeah.
and I think the last 2 years, I think, has demonstrated we've taken their recommendation the last 2 years to make some significant, we're behind in our elected official pay. We made some good increases on that, so I think we made that commitment. If it's somewhere in the middle, what are we thinking?
Carol, can I say something?
Sure, come back.
So we're looking at $24,000 plus bennies between the left side of the spreadsheet and the right side of the spreadsheet. And
Yeah.
assessment values increased 60 million.
About 2.7%, 2.8. Of course, none of these people can get overtime.
Yeah. And so then you throw on if the federal government passes no taxes on overtime, you see there. And I think I'm trying to help you make your job easier. It's $24,000.
Yeah.
I know you also need to consider economic development, but in the scope of things, you gotta keep your people in the right places. And so I'm trying to say, I don't think 24,000
Is a deal breaker,
is a deal breaker.
a budget buster?
Yeah, budget buster.
By the way, we were smarter this year, and there's
Thank you.
3 supervisor
Thank you. Yeah.
rates in there this time.
Thank you.
We're getting so much smarter on our spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Paul Geilenfeld, County Engineer. I've been watching this for a lot of years, and I am sure that you understand that the compensation board is trying to make a correction to the comparable salaries of other elected officials in other similar counties. In theory, if we take their correction just one time, the next time we do it, it should be the cost of living increase like every other, like your 3% recommendation is based on cost of living increase for the most part. But I would just like to see that sometime where we take the recommendation and then see if next year doesn't just fall right in line with our percentage increases, that where everybody can be increased the same. But to me, that's why obviously there's different ones for different elected officials, because the comparables don't line up. But
Right, which we've made progress over the
Yeah.
last 2 years, so, yeah.
But I never remember us taking the recommendation of the
Actually,
comp
I
board.
think we did, didn't we?
Haven't we the last 2 years?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
Yeah.
then I stand corrected. But
It
we,
seems like other counties, though, have also made some strides trying to get more, I'm going to say, to market or closer to market. And so then it seems like we're still behind.
yeah, everybody's trying
I think
to.
counties were
compete.
so far behind, and now they're, trying to compete with others.
I just try to, I try to emphasize that I want the elected officials not to be the lowest paid members of their field, when
Right.
you compare with the private sector. My salary is actually very close to what I would make in the private sector, right now. And it's just, so I don't have that argument, but thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul.
Oh, wait, Maria sent something too. What did she say? Maria sent something. Okay.
Would anyone like to propose a motion? Or more discussion? Or-
Kevin, you were thinking a middle ground. Are you still thinking that?
So when I at the 40%. The difference between the two is 25,325.
I don't know, I think Mark makes a pretty compelling case as to why we might want to accept the recommendation, and then maybe to Paul's thoughts is maybe next year we get that 3% if we,
Yeah.
Next year, we might all be at 0.
right. Yeah,
Well, and I wonder if there's a case to be made for looking at employees by department too then, and doing comparison that way.
I think that's another piece that's missing. We need, I mean, of what's here of our department heads that are unelected to verify that they're in the competitive range as well. Because I
Right.
do know that there's certain departments that are not even close to in range as well. And
One sitting in the back of the room.
yeah, yeah. And probably in doing this, I mean, we're the 15th largest county. The treasurer pay is 34th, the audit recorder is 16th. Of course, that's an asterisk next to it because of the combined office. Supervisors are 20th, sheriff's 23rd, and attorney's 26th. I think if we go with the recommendation here today, that gets us probably very close to on par with us in the correct rankings.
I would add that I'm in the third year of my contract, and I'm contracted at a 5% increase July 1.
Okay, that's a good,
Thanks for that.
yeah.
And so if we went with this, the comp board recommendation, I think it would get us to everyone very close to the correct ranking within their affiliates.
But then work to do for other departments.
But I think
Yeah.
we really need to look at our department heads' pay as well.
And I'm hoping that I'll have that HR project way further down the road for looking, that'll kind of fall in line with that too. So looking at those job descriptions, and I'm going to say that even the key jobs in the department at least.
Right. I think that's what I
Yeah,
had
I'm
in
kind of
mind
a
as
key.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm still ready for a motion.
Or I'll make the motion to go with the comp board recommendation that was provided to us.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Tibbs,
Yes?
Kyle,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes?
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you and your comp board members for your work. We appreciate it. Okay. Item number 9, discussion and possible action, court record storage at Marshalltown Mall. So Lucas, do you want to come up and talk about this?
Sure. Might be a little bit more worth it to have Nan start, but last week we got notice from the mall that they would like us to get our court file storage that we are currently using there out by next Monday, which was a very short period of time for
7
Monday,
working
March
days.
4th.
March 3rd.
Third.
Or March 3rd, yeah.
Monday, March
Yeah.
3rd. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they gave
Okay.
us 7.5 working days
Yeah.
to move
He ca-
a
yeah,
semi load of files. So we have been, Nan and I had a conversation with court administration from Second Judicial, a gal there. She is new to this position within the last year, so she's playing a little bit of catch up on it. But the long and the short is we are going to need to move a lot of heavy items to a different location. We've had some kind of internal conversations about what are our options, where can we move it, do we have a place that we own that we could move this to? And the shorter answer is yes, but the more difficult answer is none of it really works that great. We had talked about the basement of the annex that isn't being utilized as much as we had hoped by HHS. The problem with that is well, we spent $2 million on the building to remodel it. Do we really want to use it as storage for for the first point. The second point is with the push at the federal and state level to return workers actually to brick and mortar buildings is really coming on strong right now, and HHS is working remotely mostly. But if they come back to
need
where
the
they
space.
say that, you have to work in office, then if we fill up their offices with storage, now we're renting again, which doesn't make great sense for a building that we just spent money on remodeling. So there's the overall arcing problem. We did give the state $150,000 to start a scanning project of their files that used to be stored in the courthouse. There was a storage room on the fourth floor that had kind of a two-tier where the current clerk's office is. We also had some in the attic of the courthouse, and then a good majority of the basement of the annex. So we had a lot of square footage that we were using for storage, and when we moved that out, we gave them $150,000 and said, just scan it, just get it digital. We don't want to store it anymore. They said, great, thanks, and they kicked off this scanning project, and then came back to us a year and a half later and said, well, we're not doing everything. We went, that wasn't really the agreement, but I'm not sure. That's a conversation for another day, I guess. But we need to find a place, and maybe we just roll into number 9 here and kind of group these together. Or
So we're obligated to house these records.
code reads that we are to provide space that the Board of Supervisors deems adequate.
And they need access to these.
They need access.
Need access.
Yes. Now, as their scanning project progresses, it is slow. It isn't complete, but that access will decrease. But right now, they access it. Let's call it 2 times a week, maybe 3 times a week, where they will get requests and they'll go pull 10 files and bring it back, whatever that is.
Okay.
There's
so
some
what-
issues with the scanning, that it hasn't been, the quality's not been great, so that's slowed it.
Okay. And so we don't necessarily need to take action on the mall situation, except you guys need to move the records out. So
Well,
do
it's-
we have to take any official action to terminate an arrangement with them?
Here's where we maybe need action on the mall is we had talked with the judicial branch and they say they don't have any money to move this stuff. So either we are good community partners and we pay to move their things, or we say figure it out. I think that's probably the decision on the mall that needs to happen. But with that,
Have you had that discussion at the state, with the state administrator?
We talked to her about it, she's not gotten back to us.
Okay.
Again, I think
She's
she's in the
new,
last
yeah.
6 months. I mean,
Yeah.
she's super new. I think that's why Scott retired. I think he's seen the writing on the wall.
So we need to hear from them whether they can
Yeah,
pay
and we
for-
will reach out
pay
to,
for
but I think
Yeah.
which we will reach out, but we need to
Did they,
secure where.
did they pay to move those
Yes,
records out
yes,
there?
yes.
Okay. So if we move them, we can invoice them for the cost
Absolutely.
of that? Yeah.
I'm sure we can, whether or
Yeah.
not that.
Well, I mean, it
What
looks
comes
like
of
a
it is-
precedent's been set that they
Sure
paid to
does.
move them out.
What would
so-
surprise you to move them back?
Yeah,
They moved them there, why it
Yeah.
would surprise them?
yeah, so,
The-
okay.
The conversation we got from them was, we moved it under an emergency declaration because of the tornado, and they're trying
Oh.
to say we're no longer under an emergency declaration, but, A to
Well,
B
either
needs to
way,
come back to A.
they need to be moved. And
Yes.
so we will probably be the party that moves them, and then we can decide who pays for that. Or
That's, I
pursue,
think that's. the-
pursue who pays for
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Okay, so,
And maybe that's the motion to say, hey, if we have to, we'll do this, but we're gonna push them to do it.
do you
type of
need a
thing.
motion to move them?
I think we
I
can
mean, I
take
would
care of
just
this.
say,
If
yeah,
you're
okay.
okay, we'll get them moved and then we can figure
And then we'll
out.
pursue who pays for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, so item number 10 we'll just roll into that, which was
Oh,
the
that is 10, yeah,
potential,
yep.
Yes.
potential for storage then.
Yeah, so keeping the files accessible and close-ish is ideal, right? They used to be in the building or across the street at the annex. We do have an option of the Black Iron Barbell building has a section of it, let's call it a quarter of that building that is accessible. Nan and I met with Jake Reynolds on that, and he is willing to work with us on that. Yeah, it's this kind of the west entrance there. And I didn't work it. What's the square footage?
1,500 square feet.
What's that price per square foot?
Oh,
Can we do
cheap.
that math? Cheap, yeah.
really, really good. So if we did the 2-year, that is, geez, $1.76, or if we did 3 years, and you know how quickly time goes. Yeah, it's just really cheap.
Yeah, the discussion we kind of had with Jake is he said, how long
Long.
does this look like? I said, well, honestly, with how quickly the scanning project has progressed, I think we have a need for probably the 2 years. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if it drug out further. So the question at that point is once they complete what they are going to scan, do we need that much space in the future, or is it something that we can handle a little more? Because at that point, they shouldn't be scanning. They should have the things that they access regularly digitized, so the need for access decreases at that point.
Are they continuing their scanning right now? Is
Yes.
it underway?
Yeah.
It's at a pause. They had some quality issues and some indexing issues.
But they plan to resume it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think about, I'm going to say close to the 1,000 books will be permanent.
And that's
We don't know the square footage required for that.
it's not a lot. James, can you go to the mall photos there? They have, well, so this shelf is, I mean, everything's 7-ish feet tall. This isn't a lot, but the big problem is going to be these tri-fold shelves. This is probably 12 feet worth of shelving, and then there's that much again there, and the books are on shelving that are going to take up more room. Storing it's no problem. Storing it and having it accessible. Is
Right.
where you need your square footage.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but I think there's as we continue conversations with them about their scanning project, I really want to kind of push and remind that we gave you a lot of money
Right.
with the direction that these weren't coming back.
Yeah.
And you need to do as much as you can to make sure what we're storing long-term is minimal.
I'm curious of what went out and what we will be moving back. What's the difference?
There's a lot of things not, like files, paper files.
So they've made progress.
They have.
Yeah.
They've made good progress. They really have. But
Yeah.
what they scanned was the easy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're dealing with, I think, if I'm doing this right, 50 cents,
Yeah.
57 cents,
Okay.
depending on if we do a 2-year or 3-year. So it's a shell. It's
Yeah.
not, but it's not
It's
for the public.
$2 a square foot if it's 2-year, is that it? Or
Yeah.
$1.76 if
Yeah.
it's 3-year?
So I mean, versus $10 for the nice space, you know, that's what you normally rent.
What do we pay them all?
We pay $1,433.75 a month. So this is
It's
A better
lot more
deal.
a lot better deal, and they
And
don't
it's
have to
closer.
drive.
Yeah.
yeah, it's closer. Yep.
I think they'll go get
And
things.
we won't have utilities on top
No,
of that.
yeah, we won't pay utilities,
Okay.
so it is a way better deal.
Anything from you guys?
Sounds good to me.
And to me,
Just 2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for doing the
Well,
work
Yeah.
on it.
personally, I'd love to do 3 because 2 sneaks up.
Time goes fast.
Time does go fast, and it just seems like it'll be here before we know it.
What do you?
And the project's dragging out longer than I think
It does,
anticipated?
and I'm hoping.
Is there, just a question, is there in this lease, I guess we'd want to take a look at it.
We will,
Is
and we'll
there-
have-
Is there like what if Jake sells the building? What if,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
What's our notification so that we are not?
Yeah, we haven't gotten
Okay.
anything
His basic
yet.
lease, maybe, and I said something about our basic lease, he wasn't opposed to that.
Okay,
I want Jordan to be able to weigh in, and Jordan doesn't have time for the weigh-in.
right,
Which is why we have an approved chair to sign, but
okay.
I really want him to be able to look at it, and he
Sure.
doesn't have time.
Sure, okay,
We just wanted your all's weigh-in, whether it's 2 or 3 years.
yeah. Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve a 3-year lease at $750 per month with Black Iron Barbell LLC.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
An approved chair to sign, can we?
Yeah. Thank you.
okay. Roll call, please.
Hibbs,
Yes?
Kyle,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes?
Okay. Item number 11, discussion and possible action, Marshall County Jail and Sheriff's Office, Phase 1 ARPA. I don't know if Lucas, you're back up.
You should have.
Update on the ARPA upgrades that we had planned for the sheriff's office. Obviously, our bids came in much higher than we anticipated, so we didn't accept any bids. We have internally been pursuing our options on how that project progresses, and I think we're at the point where we need to ask our architect to revamp some of the scope and help us with updating some construction documents there. So we've had some conversations with our apparent low bidder at this point, and they're going to kind of help us out with some estimate pricing and helping generate some of that scope to where we feel comfortable we're within our price kind of constraints there. So I did reach out to OPN this morning to say, hey, I want to have a conversation about redoing some of these documents. So that's mostly, this is probably an update. This is where we're at. This is how that's progressing. So the conversation with OPN is going to be, we've paid you a lot of money. You really missed the mark on this, and this is something that you need to just do for us. So I'll let you know how that goes.
Any comments, questions for Lucas?
have
Joel,
anything?
do you have anything? Sheriff? Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 12, approved medical services agreement between Marshall County and Integrated Nursing Solutions and authorized chair to sign. Sheriff?
Yes, Joel Phillips, Sheriff, Marshall County. This is one of those things that come up that was not planned. I was notified in January 24 by our medical director, Dr. Skur, that UniPoint will no longer be honoring his medical malpractice insurance premiums. A little bit of history behind that. Dr. Skur's been with the jail facility as a medical director for a little over 20 years. It is by Iowa code, we need to have a medical director to guide our nurses to provide orders for our inmate population. So I thought maybe I'd have a little bit of time, but we had basically under 2 weeks to figure out what we were going to do for medical malpractice insurance or a medical director or a company to provide those services. I did reach out to our current provider, Bobby Shomo, to see what products were out there, to see if that was an option for the county to cover Dr. Skur with the medical malpractice. It was not.
So can I just clarify? I want to be sure I understand this correctly. It's not that Dr. Skur is not going to have medical malpractice, it's that it won't cover his work at the jail.
Correct.
He will maintain his affiliation with the hospital and Unity Point Health and have insurance through them, but it just won't cover his
Correct.
work at the jail.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're correct.
Yeah.
Because obviously with a correctional facility, that insurance is very high with our demographics and our population and the increasing medical issues that we're seeing daily. So that was the issue, was just adding that component into that contract that UniPoint would cover Dr. Skur's medical malpractice. And then with Bobby Shomo, there was not a product that that their brokers would provide for the county to be able to provide that medical malpractice. So obviously doing some checking, it does come with a price tag, and it is very expensive, and is what we've been told, especially we're seeing that with our liability insurance within the county. So currently there's two companies right now, is Integrated Nursing Solutions and Advanced Healthcare. I did reach out to both those companies, and Advanced Healthcare finally got back to me yesterday. So, and this has started back right away in January. I do have Hector with Integrated Nursing. He's the founder and owner of that company, to answer any questions for the board. But obviously, it does come with a price. This is a contract medical services agreement. And it comes in about 3 different options that we could add. One was continue with Dr. Skur as a medical director, and he would be covered through his malpractice insurance through this company, and also they would compensate him for his services. We would still maintain our nursing staff as county employees. And then option number 3 would be they would provide medical director, nursing, and then that also comes with another price tag. And then the third option would have been having medical director, nursing, and then OBGYN physician along with mental health services. So through some negotiation with Hector through the contract, explained a few things on why the expenses were so high when it comes down to medical malpractice. There are very, very few brokers that will even take on this in the state of Iowa. So that's what we found out. So the first year is going to be $40,000. That's going to be for the malpractice insurance. And then moving forward, for February 7th is when this started. It was $5,500 each month for a medical director, and that also includes the medical malpractice insurance in that invoice. And then also, if we opted in, we do have a PRN nursing. So if we can't get into bind or we need additional nursing, there is a PRN services at $75 an hour. That's obviously
And that's as needed?
as needed. And we do budget for that now. As a PRN, we do budget for 2 full-time RNs. We've been trying to get a second RN for several months. And it comes down to, I think Chief Jail Administrator White's here. I think we had 5 applicants, and it comes down to money. We're competing with the private industry, and it's hard to compete with what our wages are.
We really need to look at those wages because we're not competitive at all.
And it's just, and we've had some really good applicants that are trying to make it work. It just financially, it's not feasible for them. They'd be taking too much of a pay cut. So, but we're still moving forward with some applications and trying to get that out. But in the meantime, we need to come up with a medical director to provide those services for our inmates. And with Dr. Skur, like I said, he's been with us for 20 years. He is almost like that insurance when we get inmates in. They're screened. He knows what the population is. He is a medical director for other correctional facilities. So he knows what is needed by code because correctional health care is a lot different than private. And he also does the preventive to where he can see problems that could arise during their stay in our facility. What is deemed appropriate and necessary, that also comes into factor on what services are provided. So he really does a good job on triaging our inmate population and doing the best for them, keeping that inmate patient best interest along with the county's interest with liability.
So continuity in that relationship is
Exactly.
important?
It is very, very much so. And that's relayed through our nurses, so they have to be available 24 hours a day. And he's always been really good about either coming out to the facility or directing our nursing staff for medical direction. So it's been a really good relationship, and we'd like to keep it. So, but we also, it's one of those things where contracted health care comes with a cost.
Yeah.
And we like our employees. They're dedicated to the county, and I think we like to maintain that relationship with our employees. But I can introduce Hector if you have any questions for him also. So.
Morning.
And
Morning.
Hector and Salamanca.
what's the term of the agreement? Is it until terminated?
It's a yearly contract renewable each year.
Okay.
So, and that's one thing that we'll have to, Hector and I have talked about is the cost. It's not gonna be going down, it's always gonna be increasing.
Yeah.
We negotiated down to 6% versus the 7.5% was originally proposed. And that's one of those things where it all comes down to the insurance costs. And, you know, we've seen in our own liability insurance, it's increased considerably, and it does not look like it's going to be going down.
Okay.
Morning. Do you have
Morning.
any questions for me?
Any questions?
I don't.
And County Attorney Gaffney did review the contract and did
Yeah.
approve that everything looked good. Some good language in it to protect both parties.
Where are you based out of?
So we are based in West Des Moines.
Oh,
We are
okay.
a very small company. We have been provided medical services to Story County Jail for the past 2.5 years, give or take.
Okay.
I have a group of providers that have more than 20-some years experience. I worked with Dr. Skur for the past more than 10 years, and he reached out to me to see if we could make something happen. We were able to do something, but the policies are extremely expensive. And that's the reason why. It's one operation fee, only one time, and then Dr. Skur salary is calculated on the monthly basis. So you will not have another $40,000 initiation fee.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
No, thank you, Hector. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the medical service agreement between Marshall County and Integrated Nursing Solutions and authorize the chair to sign.
And I'll second.
Any other discussion?
No, thank you for all your work on that, guys. Appreciate it.
Roll call.
Hibbs,
Yes?
Kyle,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Okay. Item number 13, the approved purchase of a Caterpillar 962 wheel loader from Ziegler Cat of Altoona for $394,995.50. Paul?
Yes, and this is a loader that we discussed in our budget workshop too, and you may remember I thought the price was going to be a lot closer to 500,000 than 400,000. So we've got a very good quote on this unit. It will serve us well with our other loader. We'll have more than one of these larger wheel loaders, but we do quite a bit of stockpiling of rock resurfacing different locations around the county. So we have loaders that work off-site, and we've also found, and we found last winter, that the loaders and tractors really help us out when the snow gets really severe, to like clean out drifts in areas where regular plow equipment just can't do it. So.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve purchase of a Caterpillar 962 wheel loader from Ziegler Cat of Altoona for $394,995.50.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Hibbs,
Yes?
Kyle,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yes by you.
Yes.
Paul, next, item 14, you're up for that. Resolution 2025-009, a resolution endorsing a grant application for funding through the Iowa Department of Transportation's Revitalize Iowa Sound Economy RISE program for Marshall County, Benford Avenue and 245th Street paving, and US 30 turn lane improvements to assist the development and expansion of Marshall Ridge Farms.
And this resolution, it will be attached with our RISE application, and it's part of the process that's required, because we don't want to get, awarded RISE grant funding and then somebody find out that the board has no intention of ever improving this at all. And so this kind of just says, we know what's going on here, and we support, applying for this funding, and that we'll support, improvement as stated in the RISE grant. I don't think there's no guarantees on anything. It just says that you're putting your support behind this project.
Okay.
And it's my understanding that this came as a result of your working with the DOT on Debbie Durham, the director of the Economic Development Department, said this has not been done before like this. That RISE funding hasn't been necessarily used for infrastructure improvements like this.
Well, the RISE, the funding, the side of RISE that we're trying to use is what they call immediate opportunity grant. And the amount of funding that we could get awarded is going to be hinged on the number of employees that Marshall Ridge Farms would be adding with the additional expansion. And I think they are also able to consider any jobs increased by their resource collection, the gas collection that they have there and the system that goes out. And also if, other businesses such as the Thomas Trucking that hauls silage for them, if they have to add employees based on this too. So the added employees are what create the amount. It won't be enough to do the entire project, but we also had this section of road added to the farm to market system. And I went through that with the Farm to Market Review Board. It's been over a year ago, I think. And so that we are able to use FM funds for our match, so that we don't have to try to fund it with local funds.
Well, thank you for all your work on this. It was
It's,
kind of
our consultant
yeah.
that we had, do the traffic impact study and is also doing for most of the RISE application has really helped out quite a bit.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we adopt Resolution 2025-0009, a resolution endorsing a grant application for funding through the Iowa Department of Transportation's Revitalize Iowa Sound Economy Program for Marshall County, Bedford Avenue, and 245th Street paving and US 30 turn lane improvements to assist development and expansion of Marshall Ridge Farms.
Yeah, I'll second that.
And just clarification, if this is received, what's the percentage?
The amount of money, like I said,
Local,
is
yeah.
based on the employees, so there isn't a set percentage.
okay.
It's, we can give you this much money based on the
Number of
additional
jobs,
employees,
yeah.
the jobs that are created.
Okay,
And then, we would make an engineer's estimate on the rest
Yeah.
of the work.
yeah. Is there a percentage, local versus, these dollars at all that's set, or no?
I don't think
It's all
there is.
based on the job creation? Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Hibbs,
Yes?
Kyle,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Okay.
And I also just wanted to commend you guys for acting on the plaza in front of the courthouse, because there's never gonna be a cheaper or better time to make that improvement, so that really.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Item number 15, approve zoning variance 2025 BAR 6021 for Isaac Hodgkins that was approved by the zoning commission on February 10, 2025, and authorize the chair to sign.
Good morning, Tyler Kelly, Planning and Zoning. This variance request was brought to our office. It was submitted December 19th of 2024. On January 21st, 2025, a zoning review was completed. The zoning commission approved this project on February 10, 2025. A meeting was held with representatives of the project, local landowners, and the zoning commission, where questions were answered. There is several representatives of the project present today, if you guys have any questions.
I'm Isaac Hodgins with Shive Hattery, 222 3rd Avenue, Southeast Cedar Rapids, Iowa, 52401.
And Rick Callander, Alliant Energy, on 201st Street, Southeast Cedar Rapids.
Okay.
Any questions? I don't think we really have anything to add. We went kind of over the case at the zoning commission meeting last month.
And do you want to do just a quick overview for the board here?
Sure. Did you want to maybe discuss, Rick, what
Yes.
the need for the substation is?
So we have moved the substation multiple times. And with this specific landowner, we've moved it 3 times. The first time because the county would have had to close the road for us to gravel it because of the railroad. The speeds would be too high. And we were down in that corner there originally. Then we moved it up in the highlighted blue area. It was in the northeast corner, but the landowner to the east asked us to move it. And so we moved it to the northwest corner of the parcel at his request. We've worked with the county to identify where we could put a driveway for the substation and an additional driveway for the farm entrance. And we've gotten an okay from the county engineer as to where that would be. And so this has been a project Isaac and I have been working on with the county for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And so I really think this is a good location. It's a badly needed substation, and so at the planning and zoning meeting, I was told by a coworker that this was slated for 2027, and I've since found out it's slated for 2026.
Okay.
So this is something they'll be building next year.
And then, so Shive Hattery's role in the project is land surveying and civil engineering for the most part. So this is a proposed 3-acre subdivision, and that's the reason for the variance. I think for these agricultural parcels, it needs to be 25 acres or more without a variance. And obviously for a substation that size, as you can see, it does not need 25 acres. And we did, as Rick indicated, work closely with the county engineer over time here, and the driveway access location that you see on this site has been approved by the county engineer. There will also be a farm field entrance that is built further to the east, because this is going to take out the farm field entrance at the corner where they come off of the intersection with 230th and Canfield. You can kind of see it there a little bit. So that will be displaced and moved to the far to the east. And we'll have really good spacing in between the intersection of 230th, Canfield, and then the 3 driveways mentioned. The one existing one to the far east in the residential property, and then the 2 new ones, the farm field access and the substation access. And as Rick said, construction will commence sometime in 2026. My guess would be the fall, usually is how that starts, but I don't know that for sure. It is also located along an existing transmission corridor, and that from our understanding from the energy planner with Alliant, that transmission line is being upgraded from 34.5 kV voltage up to 69 kV associated with this substation, which will center the load for the power delivery in the area.
Okay. Any questions for the gentleman? Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, one other additional point that kind of goes with the site engineering. We did agree at the zoning commission meeting that we will put screening trees on the west side as well, to help protect the view from the neighbors.
Okay.
Those are not currently shown, but will be shown on a future site plan.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve the zoning variance 2025 variance 6021 for Isaac Hodgkins that was approved at the zoning commission on February 10th, 2025, and authorize the chair to sign.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Hibbs,
Yes?
Kyle,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Okay, public forum. Time set aside for the public to make comments on topics of county business other than those listed on this agenda. No action will be taken on any of these topics brought up in the public forum. Would anyone like to address?
I'm Bill Rhodes. I'm here representing the Mid-Iowa Antique Power Association. We rent ground out by the sheriff's office. We, well, you can tell them about, we lost our windmill.
Do you want to say
Okay,
your
I'm
name?
Paul Sams.
Okay.
And back prior to the Direccio, we had a windmill on the east end of what we call the horse building, or the buildings closest to Highway 30. And the Direccio took the windmill out. At that point in time, under our lease with the county, we were providing insurance on the buildings and things out there. That lease, or the insurance money, ended up going back to the county, sat for quite some time before there was an agreement to rebuild a building that's kind of towards the west end of our property. It was built with replaced with a new pole building. That was because of the fact that there was talk of maybe a joint building being put up farther north, and the sheriff's office and us and maybe the county. I'm not sure what all was involved, but there was talk of that, which never materialized. We asked supervisors, and they went ahead and approved the putting up of the building. But the windmill was never replaced in that whole process. We had a member who made a large donation that we would like to put up a windmill to replace that windmill with this donation. And we simply would like to have the board's approval, because we're putting it on your property. So we want your blessing on us putting it back up. Maybe Bill can tell you a little bit more about the windmill. But the second question in this is after the windmill is up. Now currently, the insurance on the buildings through a different lease than what we had at that time. Our lease has been changed. The county has the insurance on all the buildings. We would assume at this point that probably the windmill would be considered under the county's building insurance, but we would like to clarify that with you and find out if we would have to look at some specific insurance, which is difficult when you put something and try and insure it on somebody else's property. So we just want to verify that. Bill can talk a little bit about the windmill. What we're putting up is a 33-foot tower with an 8-foot fan. And it'll have our logo or our name on the fin, so it kind of identifies us out there in that area. And the cost is $9,300 is what we're going to lay out for the cost of that.
Is that installed?
That's installed.
Okay.
That's, in fact, on our way here this morning, I got a call from the people, and they can, what was it, Tuesday? They can put it up Tuesday. They would like to.
Oh, wow, that's efficient. I wish everything was that
We said
efficient.
we have not spoke to the county. Yeah, I said, yeah.
Don't put it up yet, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess we're just kind of asking for your
Blessing?
blessing on it. you
Yeah.
know,
Earl,
and figure out who's going to cover the insurance.
We had no idea about this. I would like to look back at the insurance claim on the Dory Show, and I'm going to give them my card, and
Yeah, hey.
Let's reel this back just a little bit. This is
Yeah.
the Derecho 2011 that we're talking about.
2011.
Not
Oh!
This is 14
2011.
years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a long, this has been a long time.
Okay, this is a long time ago. Okay.
And
Yeah.
we've been doing a fundraiser to try and raise money, but we had
Oh, this is,
Irene Ellsbury was her and her husband were members of our association, and when she passed, she left in her will $10,000 to our club.
Nice.
oh,
And the windmill was a pet project of hers after it blew down, trying to raise funds. And it just kind of died off because there wasn't enough interest. But we want to honor her, take that $10,000 and put a windmill
Put it
up.
up, yeah.
I'm sure there's still insurance claim information back to that time, so I would like to at least research that, reach out to Bobby. So I'm going to give you my card and
Okay.
we'll work on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we will have to put it on an agenda and so that
Yeah, I'm not sure Tuesday works.
Tuesday doesn't really work, but we could get it on the March 12th.
Yeah, we can.
And they could be working probably by the afternoon.
Yeah, so we can't take any action in public forum because we didn't have it on the agenda.
Okay.
But we can have it on the next agenda, and then we'll have a little more answers. We'll have more answers about insurance. If they could hold off just a little bit till we get that
Then we
done.
hold off.
Yeah, then I'm sure we can work something out here, yeah.
We
I
just didn't want to just put it up and then all of a sudden.
Surprise,
You know, sometimes
Thank you.
ask for forgiveness.
Well, it happened a lot quicker. I mean, we called last fall and talked to them and got some estimates on it, and yeah.
Well-
On the way in, he called
Oh, our next meeting is March 12th.
12th.
And so if, we'll have it on the agenda for that. And then we'll have a few more answers, but I'm sure we can come to some agreement here,
Okay.
okay?
So I take it the windmill's not functional, it's just more of an aesthetic?
Well, it's non-functional.
Yep.
It wouldn't be
We had
allowed, no.
a slab there with a pump and an old pump jack on it, and it stayed, but when the windmill blew down, I don't even know what happened to it, the old windmill.
That was his first day of work here.
Literal first day of work. That's got trees for 2 weeks.
The old one went to
A
scrap on
tree
it.
job.
But, yeah, it'll just be out there just kind of add to our farm
Yeah,
motif that we got going on out there.
yeah,
Absolutely. That's great.
yeah, okay. Well, we'll see you on March 12th.
And this is a little past that, but can we thank Lucas and for all the help that, we worked together out there a lot, and with Sheriff Joel,
Yeah.
we worked together a lot on equipment and timing when we do the mowing and stuff like that, and everybody's wonderful to work with, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate the long-term happiness we've had with the Board of Supervisors in allowing us to use that area, so thank you.
Thank you.
It's always a great event,
I
so.
have one maintenance request. The horse.
Okay, Lucas, you've been thanked, but now,
Lucas knows. We'll get her. The horse barn, that building there where the concrete extends out past the fence.
yeah,
The posts on that south side right there are rotten at the bottom.
Yeah.
And our concern is another big wind may lift that building up, and because those poles aren't really doing anything there anymore. And I don't know if that's something that could be repaired in the future, but
okay,
we wanted to bring it up.
thank you, yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Bill.
yeah.
Bill?
Anyone else?
Can I
Kevin.
get your, so your bill?
Bill Rhodes, yeah.
Okay, what's your phone number?
641-485-4557.
Kevin Hisbo, Director of Veterans Affairs.
I'm
I
gonna
have some
reach
great
out
news.
to
March
get insurance,
29th
then
will
I'll
be
give
the
you
ribbon
bus.
cutting for our memorial.
Yay. Wow.
I've rolled it out a couple
You've
times
got
on
it
the
written
radio.
in stone somewhere?
They have one last item to do to the center column, and that is the saying that's gonna be sandblasted in up in South Dakota, and they want it out of their facility as quick as they can, because it's tying up a lot of space.
Well,
All the other items for that are complete, and they'll probably be delivering it sometime in the next probably 2 weeks and be
Okay.
setting everything up.
I'm
The
sure
only
it'll
thing
draw a
that-
lot of attention.
Yes, the only thing that will not be done will be the flagpoles, and that'll happen a little later this year, probably closer to June timeframe. But then we are targeting March 29th. That's also National Vietnam Veterans Day. The 5 of the 6 tablets, the etchings on the inside of those tie to that timeline. There are some beautiful work that's gone on there. They'll be setting the 4 benches. The center post has to set first, then we space the tablets around there, so there's walking room around everything. So March 29th is the date,
Okay.
and they will be delivering that stuff probably in the next 2 weeks and getting everything done.
And you're
That-
coordinating with Lucas there?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've spoke with him. And the center post will be coming in on a flatbed and a crane, and they'll be parking on Center Street, lifting it and setting that, and then McCall's will come up from Newton and set the rest of the stuff. So, it'll
That's
be great to have
wonderful
it done.
news.
Yes,
Yeah.
it'll be great. This afternoon, I gotta send you the history book stuff, that's all completed, what we need to build on there. At 1 o'clock, I meet with the chamber, Dylan Dose and his assistant. They're gonna be doing flyers for this to hand out. And Amy Dimerly, I spoke with her out at Lily Mae. She wants to design some red, white, and blue candies to hand out for that day.
Oh, that's great.
So I'll be working with Todd Jacobus to see if maybe the governor has opening time for that Saturday morning at 10
Do you know
a.m.
what
to
time?
possibly come
10
up.
a.m.?
10 a.m.
Okay.
Because Todd has to be somewhere later that day, so. So it'll be nice to have this done. It's been not a long, lengthy period of time to get this completed, but it'll be great to have it on the courthouse. And it's great to see the front of the courthouse with the design that's gonna go there too. It all just links together how beautiful this courthouse is, all the hard work Lucas and the county has done on it, and the Board of Supervisors, the great work you people do.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Kevin.
all your efforts.
You bet.
Thanks, Kevin.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to remind everybody, the election's going on March 4th for Lost. Just folks in the unincorporated areas, and I've learned that no one knows what that means. That means people that do not live in a city. If you don't live in a city, that's an unincorporated area. So folks like Deanne, myself, Kevin, Jarrett, Joel, Ben, we don't live in town.
Have you all voted?
Nope. If we did. Lucas was number
Okay.
1.
Great.
2? Oh, yeah, Tony B, yeah.
All right, and voting's going on.
Voting is going on now at the election center through Monday, and otherwise then go to your normal polling location, except those of you in State Center Township, and those need to go to the Melbourne Rec Center.
Okay. Please vote.
Please vote.
Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on to adjournment. The next regular session is Wednesday, March 12th at 2025 at 9 a.m. at the courthouse here in the first floor meeting room. All business to be acted upon at that session should be submitted to the county auditor recorder's office or the Board of Supervisors office by Wednesday, March 5th at 12 noon. There being no further business to come before the meeting is